What's up, guys? The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, came out and did an interview and said the president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, is actually living in a disinformation world. I kid you not. That's exactly what he said. Now, when Ukraine was under attack by Russia, and when the Ukrainian soldiers were in Bucha, the Russian soldiers were in Bucha, and Zelensky came out and begged that he was going to agree to the terms of President Putin, that if they could just pull their troops back and he's going to negotiate whereby he's not going to join NATO and he's going to consider giving them Donbass. And that talk was to be held in Turkey. That was on the 27th of March, about 27th or 30th of March. And as soon as Putin pulled his troops back, Zelensky did a video and said he's not going to be having any talks with Russia. He's not going to be having any talks with Putin, and he's going to fight the Russians in Donbass, where they're concentrated, where Putin actually pulled his troops to Donbass. Now, he asks Biden, President Biden, who was the president back then, to bring arms and aids, air defense systems, and all that rockets and HIMARS missiles to attack the Russians. And President Biden did just that. Americans gave Zelensky everything he wanted. Billions and billions and billions of dollars in aid. And that is exactly what helped him to make sure the war keeps going and to make sure that Kyiv was not overrun with missiles and all that stuff that President Putin would have thrown at them. You would think that somebody who was given so much money by the United States will show a little bit of gratitude, will mind the kind of words that he used when talking about the president of that country. Somebody who gave you over $100 billion, and you're telling that country, the president of that country, that they're living in a disinformation world. So are you trying to tell Trump that Trump is not wise enough to listen to his intelligence agencies? Are you telling the president of the United States that you're not smart enough to understand the narrative? That your narrative is the best and they're living in a disinformation world? You see, this is the guy that Europe is flocking around. He comes out and he does a press conference and everybody look at him like a rock star, and he actually gets more money from everybody. There is only one person who actually sees this guy for who he truly is, and that's Donald Trump. He sees him as an ingrate, he sees him as a comedian, and he sees him for what he really is, as a puppet who doesn't want the war to end. For you guys need to understand. If you live in an environment where you don't see people dying every single day due to war, you will be forced to have this kind of entitlement that you want to keep fighting. But if you live in an environment where you see bodies littered all over the places, the roof is on fire, the buildings are being brought down, if someone asks you right there, do you want the war to end? You say, yes, I want it to be over with. I want them to make a deal, and I want them to do it fast. Zelensky and the people in Kiev, living in Kiev right now, they don't know that much to be afraid. Because life goes on in Kiev just like every other city out there. People are going to restaurants, people are going to the movies, people just living their life as if nothing is going on. You interview someone in Kiev right now, they'll tell you, we want to fight. We like Zelensky. We want to keep fighting. We want to win the war, because they're not being affected by the war. They're not coming out there seeing people dead on the street, or buildings shattered, and all these crazy things happening. They are not affected by it. They only see these things in the news. But if you ask people in the Donbas region and say, hey, do you want this war to be over? They're going to tell you straight off the bat, we want this war to be over. Because those are the people who are mostly affected by the war. So Donald Trump sees all this and he's like, I want this war to be over. There are people dying. Then you got people in Kyiv, just like Zelensky, who walks around, who travels to different countries, who lives in fabulous hotels, who meets with world leaders all day, and they treat him like a rock star. They put him in the cover of Vogue magazines and all that. Comes out and say, we want to fight, we want to keep fighting. What about the soldiers who are dying? What about the people who are being picked up from the streets and forced into the military, sent to the front line, and most of them don't come back? What about them? What about the people who are trying to run away from the country because they don't want to be drafted to go fight a war that they believe it's not a winnable war? Now, a lot of you are going to say something like this real quick. You're going to say, if someone comes to your house, do you just let them just take everything in your house? Let me tell you something real quick. If someone comes to my house and I have a family in the house, and the person comes armed to the teeth with guns and all that, and I can't protect myself, I can't even protect my family, I'll make a deal. And they tell me, hey, this is what we want. It's either you have that or you lose everything. I'm going to make a deal. Because I am vulnerable. What is Zelensky actually fighting for? He keeps talking about, we're fighting, this is a war, we're going to win this war. Win what? Russia has actually said, Putin has actually said that they've actually reduced the scope of their mission, that they don't want to take the whole Ukraine. They just want to take the Donbas. The Donbas is already gone. It's almost gone. Hundreds of thousands of people died defending the Donbas. You're not getting that back. So the question is, what are you fighting for? Why do you want this war to keep going? Oh, so they can send you more money? So they can send you more ammunition to arm your guys? And Zelensky said the other day that nobody helped them to fight the war, that they fought the war themselves. That it was the Ukrainian soldiers who actually went out there and fight the war. Yeah, that's true. But you guys wouldn't have held on. You guys wouldn't have still been in this war, in this position right now, if it wasn't for the foreign aids, the weapons and the money that was sent to you by Europe and the US. So you should be grateful. When you talk about Donald Trump out there, you should be grateful. I've always known this guy was a rude person. Because there was a time whereby he spoke rudely to African leaders, and he was like, hey, African leaders don't have say in world politics and all that. He walks around with a smirk in his face, feeling like a tough guy, feeling like Rambo. He does some push-ups, and he thinks he's the man. If you're the man, and if you have all the great soldiers in the world saying your soldiers like the best in the world right now, you wouldn't be drafting teenagers or young people off the streets and forcing them to go fight. You have the soldiers. So why do you need people? Why do you have to snatch people off the streets to go fight? That's because your soldiers are dead. A lot of them are dead. You're losing soldiers, you're losing men. That's why you keep getting new ones. So you just ask yourself, so what are we fighting for? Oh, we're fighting for the freedom of Ukraine. What is freedom? You're never going to get Donbas back. You're never going to get Crimea back. So what are you fighting for? You want security guarantees? Okay, the U.S. is trying to broker a deal whereby you get security guarantees. Why is that not enough? Why do you want the war to keep going on? I'll tell you why he wants the war to keep going on. Because let's not forget what's happening here. The reason why the West want the war to keep going on, it's because they want a weakened Russia. They want Russia to deplete his army. They want Russia to deplete his arsenals. They want Russia to have a weakened economy. That's the main reason why they want this war to keep going on. So every single day the war is going on, they believe that the Russian economy is going to be weakened with sanctions. All the strong generals out there who the US felt like these guys can be a major threat one day. They can say, hey, not just the US, the West, okay? They can say, hey, let's take this guy out. And we can just blame it on the war. Oh, we're fighting the war. And before you know it, assassination is going to take place. Boom, a general is out. Boom, this guy's out of the way. Oh, it's a war. So they wanted to keep going on. But the problem with that is too many Ukrainians are dying. Now you're going to see Russians are dying as well, which is Russian soldiers. But the war has not come to Russia. And it's not going to go to Russia. Why? Because the West is afraid of Putin. How are you going to insult the President of the United States? And you're going to insult Putin as well. Oh, I can talk to Putin the way I want. You think you can talk to Putin the way you want? But guess what? The people who are backing you, which is the West, they're afraid of that man you're talking. You believe you can say whatever you want to. If they're not afraid of Putin, they would have gone in troops and boots on ground in Russia from day one when the war happened. So what's the statement right here that Zelensky is trying to make? The statement that Zelensky is trying to make is that Donald Trump is living in a disinformation world because he doesn't know what's happening. Donald Trump came back and said he shouldn't have started the war. And he comes out and says, oh, we didn't start the war. Russia is the one who invaded us. Now, let's talk about that real quick. If I see a guy, probably like a guy like John Jones or Francis Ngannou or Tom Aspinall, and I walk up to these guys and I'm like, your mama. And I say some very, very dumb, disrespectful stuff. And I attack them, like saying, hey, your mama. What do you think is going to happen? They're going to beat you up. That's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to retaliate and beat you up. Now, when you get your butt beat, you don't come out and say, I was attacked. No, you were the one who started it in the first place. Zelensky came out and said that he wants to join NATO, that he has an ambition to join NATO. That was what started this whole stuff in the first place. Because Putin doesn't want the US to have, or the West to have, a NATO base in their border whereby it's going to be very, very easy to attack them. They don't want Ukraine having nuclear weapons. They don't want NATO using Ukraine as a camping ground and start doing war games. It's the same thing that the US would have done. They don't want people having war games and all that crazy stuff in Cuba. That's the reason why they sanctioned Cuba. They don't want that in Mexico. Nobody's going to want that in their borders. That's the reason why they attacked. So when you provoke somebody and the person attack you and you come out and say, oh, they just attacked me, like they're the ones who started the war. No, you are the one who started the war because you provoked them. That's exactly what President Trump is saying. That's not disinformation. That's fact. And you have Bernie Sanders out there coming out and saying, oh, it's a lie. You have the Democrats out there coming out. And you got CNN and all the MSNBC and the mainstream media. They're all coming out and saying, oh, this is a lie. This is disinformation. If they could just sit down and say, why did these guys attack? It would have been clear from day one that Putin got provoked. It's not like they weren't warned that don't do this. If you do this, this is what's going to happen. They knew the consequences. They were still trying to do it. You don't provoke a world power that the whole EU is afraid of. You don't provoke them. If they weren't afraid of Putin, they would have had boots on ground in Russia from day one. They're afraid. So they're using Zelensky and Ukraine as foot soldiers. Give you all the weapon you want. Give you all the money you want. But hey, according to the EU, we're going to use it as a loan. But in the US, oh, you can give them the money for free. But you're going to use your men. Your men are going to go out there and they're going to do the fighting. They're going to do the dying. For presidents to actually, a president of a sovereign country, to actually agree to something like that, it shows how despicable that person is. So when you see people using the word puppets with Zelensky, it's actually the right word that you're using. You are a puppet. Because if that's the aim of the West, to use you to weaken Russia while your people die, and you agree to that, you should be ashamed of yourself. So that's what I'm going to be dropping right now. So if you like this video, just hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications when I post a new video, you find out, and comment down below with what you think. Do you think Zelensky is right, or you think Trump is right? All right, see you guys in the next one. Peace.